I please have everyone's attention again? Thank you very much. I hope we all enjoyed our lunch. I particularly would like to hear some feedback on the falafel balls because George did advocate very hard for those. So I'd be interested to know how they turned out. So I hope you all enjoyed your lunch and thanks for coming back for our current session now, and I hope you had a good chance to have some good discussions in your previous sessions. So I'd like to welcome you to this session, which is titled, Is There a Future for Special Schools in Australia? It's going to be a kind of debate come discussion sort of format between the people up on stage at the moment. But I'll leave the explanation to David Craig, who I'd like to introduce as the moderator for this session. David has 30 years of experience working in the disability sector in Victoria, and his current work involves mostly consultancy and project development work in both the disability and the aged care sectors. So I'd like to hand it over to David now for the rest of the session. Thanks, David.
Thanks. The question, is there a future for special schools, is a really contentious one, I think, and a really timely and important one. It's a shame we only have 45 minutes because I reckon it's at least 2 days' worth. So we're going to try and pack it into 45 minutes. Probably at best we will stimulate your thinking, provoke some questions, and hope that people will continue to take action and work around this issue that they might be motivated to follow up on after this session. We've got a range of speakers, including one extra one that's joined us from the special school spectrum, so from the special school end of the spectrum. We have Julie Phillips, who's at the other end of the spectrum perhaps, and then we've got lived experience in between. And we're going to try and share that very briefly, answers from those people to the question, is there a future for special schools? It wasn't that long ago, in the mid-1980s, well, for me it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but for some of you it might have been well before you were even thought of. Legislation in Victoria was changed to incorporate all children that the state had a responsibility to all children for an education. There was a group of children with disabilities that were regarded as ineducable up to that point in time, and they were placed in daycare settings for quite some time, and it took a while for the Education Department to realise that all students are educable. So it's not that long ago, and then there was a very bright period of reform and challenge and change that happened around the Victorian scene in the 1980s, where we had Joan Kerner followed by Carolyn Hogg in the Minister of Education role, and a significant push for integration in schools that saw a dramatic change in the way in which education was offered to students with disabilities. I suppose there's a timely reminder of just how much we've slipped from the 80s, I think, in the papers today and the report that's been released, and I'm sure that'll be referred to by at least one of our speakers today, the report called Held Back, The Experiences of Students with Disabilities in Victorian Schools. And this catalogues just how significant the level of discrimination and disadvantage that students with disabilities still experience in our system. Today, 40% of educators don't even know the legal rights of students with disabilities in their schools. We have a continuing and expanding special education system that was supposed to pretty much be dead and gone following the work to promote mainstream education in the 80s and 90s. There are still plenty of horror stories in both mainstream and special schools. And there is a tendency for many students going through the segregated school system to end up with a segregated life in adult life as well. But there's also good stories, and maybe we don't hear so many of them, of people that have done well, where individuals, it's a bit of a patchwork according to the Victorian Equal Opportunities and Human Rights Commission's report as to whether you end up with a good teacher, a good school and a good education rather than a right or an entitlement. So today we're going to listen to a number of presenters give a brief response to that question, and hopefully we're going to try and get some engagement with the audience if we have enough time, and then we'll just finish with a bit of a summary of the discussion we've had, and hopefully you'll then go away and this will only begin the conversation, the action for improving education opportunities for all children with disabilities. Firstly, we have Ariane Garner-Williams. Ariane's just to my left here. She's 20 and she enjoys helping other young people. She came and did a placement with my agency a while back, advocacy organisation, and she's quite passionate about people's rights, still involved in other advocacy work, and is a board member of the Cerebral Palsy Support Network. She's also a member of the management committee for Grit Media. So it's over to Ariane to give us a perspective.
Hi.
Just wait, we'll get this on first.
Sorry.
That's right.
Hello. Hopefully you can all hear me out there. My perspective is too many people are put into special setting schools that are capable and want to go to mainstream school. So my perspective is that you should be able, or you should go to a mainstream school if you want to, unless you have a life-threatening illness or very severe intellectual disability. I've come to this conclusion because so many of my friends that I went to a special setting school with, and I'll say that I only went there because I was being bullied by my aides at mainstream school. And that continued in special setting school. Most of my friends said, we want to go to, or we want to go to mainstream school, but we're just seen as not being able to, even though people have said we should be able to. So I just thought that was really quite sad because they're not getting the opportunity to learn at the same level, because the education in special schools is quite dumbed down to a point, and because the kids are assumed that they can't learn at the same level. And it just really, really saddened me, to be honest. So I think that not only should they have the opportunity to go if they believe they are capable and if they want to, but they should also have the right to have a valued opinion in what happens in their education, because so many people with disabilities are tossed to the side and it's just left up to their parents what happens to them, and I think they should have much more of a say in what happens to them.
Thanks, Ariane. Our next speaker is Jared Marinon. Jared is a project worker at Youth Disability Advocacy. He's very active in the cyberspace, and I get a lot of my Facebook messages popping up coming from YDAS and Jared's active work in that area. He spent most of his school life in a special school before going on to TAFE, where he gained an advanced diploma in IT, and he hopes one day to go into a management role in either youth or disability sectors. Greatly passionate about both issues. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, David. Thank you for having me here. It's my conference as well. No, but yeah, as I said, I did go to special school. For most of my education growing up, what I found the most is I went back to my special school because recently, because I'm on the weekends I do a bit of DJing. I'm DJing tonight, so if you come and see me, don't request any crappy songs. But I was doing a DJ set at one of my special schools 2 weeks ago. And what I took away from that was they're getting better. Well, they're not getting better. They're getting suited more to the people that probably should be in special schools. When I was in special school, you had a lot of people with, really mild cerebral palsy, and who could, no doubt, would be able to get a mainstream education if they were supported in the right way. And but yeah, when I was in special school, I loved it. Like, it was amazing. Like, I had brilliant friends. The teachers were lovely. Made some of the most met some of the most amazing people. But then I left special school, and I felt, good about myself, and I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go get more of an education. We'll go off the TAFE, and we'll do all that stuff. What I didn't realize was just how hard it is to go and get into things. So whereas when you go to special school, everyone knows, like, they cater for all your needs. You need a ramp, they'll have a ramp. And then the accessible toilet, there's accessible toilet. I waited like 6 months for a hoist to be put in my TAFE while I was waiting to my TAFE toilet to do while I did my course. They only went for 6 months. So the first course anyway. So I didn't realize just how hard it was to get things started. And I think, as long as what Ariane said was right, as long as the right people that want to go to special school are going to special school, then I suppose there is a need. But on the other hand, there's the point of a special school is just an inclusive place. But to me, if an inspiring leader, I don't want to make inclusive spaces. I want to make an inclusive community. And we're only going to do that if we take out the money, the wasted money on special schools, and put it into things like carers in mainstream schools, scribes, note takers, personal care. Those are the things. If we invest money into mainstream education, that will go a long way. So thank you.
Thanks, Jared. I turned off, that's all right. I'll use this. Our next speaker is Kathy Hammond. Kathy's a parent of 2 children, and over the years she's become an advocate for both of them. An early desire for both of her children to reach their full potential has enabled them to thrive and experience many opportunities, especially at school. There's a lot more there about Kathy and her advocacy for her kids and her experience, but we'll leave it to her perhaps to tell us a bit more about that and for you to read the full blurb that's in the booklet there. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Hammond, and thank everyone for coming today and inviting me to speak to you all. Like I said, I am a parent of 2 amazing children, and we're invited to speak about this question. Is there a future for special schools in Australia? The simple answer to that is yes, of course there is, because everyone is entitled to have an education that is appropriate for them, whether that be special school or mainstream. Sure, I would love my children or my child who has an autism spectrum disorder, he's 15 years old now, and in a special school at Bulleen Heights School. I would love for my child to be in mainstream school. If we had trained teachers, if we had the resources to accommodate him, if we had so many other things that would enable him to thrive like he is now. That's okay in theory, but practicalities, that just isn't right. Anyway, my journey with my son has brought us together with George Talaporis over the years, and has enabled us to visit many politicians, to all over all levels of government, to try and help us find that special school where Ben could thrive and be the best person that he could be. At the moment, he is at Bulleen Heights School, and that school that we have founded has been not right for Ben. Okay, I'm starting to get, I'm going to get teary and choked up here. I'll start back in 2007. My story started back in 2007. My son was at an autism-specific primary school, and in a couple of years he was due to go into high school. And back over in the Eastern Metropolitan region, over in Knox, where we live, there wasn't a secondary school where he would transition in smoothly to follow the next path. So what we needed to do, we recognised that there was a gap and there was nothing for him to move on to. We visited politicians to help us to enable a school over in that area. What we wanted to do was to have an autism-specific school for secondary school-aged children over in the Eastern Metropolitan region, and that was our goal. So back in 2007, that's where we started, visiting politicians, talking to parents, talking to principals, talking to anyone that would listen to us, really, talking to people in the street, just anybody that would listen to what we wanted to do. Over many years, and to cut the long story short, we have been able to do that. And as we speak, there is a special school being built in the Eastern Metropolitan region for secondary school children with autism. And in 2013, the children will be going to that school. Unfortunately, it's too late for my son Ben for that to happen, but he was the inspiration for that. I think there is a need for special schools, purely for the reason of choice. Now, we do have many schools out there. We have special schools, we have special disability schools for all children with a range of disabilities. We also have mainstream schools as well. But unfortunately, everybody's different. Everybody has their unique needs. Everybody learns in a different way. I think everyone have the choice of where they want to go. Some children, like my son Ben, is not capable of going to a mainstream school. If, like I said before, if the teachers were trained specifically to meet his needs and they had the resources to accommodate him, you know, that would be well and good. But in the real world, that doesn't happen, especially for him. And in order for him to thrive and become the best person that he can be, he is in a special setting at the moment at Bulleen Heights School. He has unique sensory issues and also behavioural issues and also community issues that we need to deal with. And by being at Bulleen Heights School, the teachers there are trained specifically to meet his needs. I'm not sure what I can say. I was just starting to
We'll ask some more questions.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Kathy. No, that's... One of my experiences, I think in tandem with Julie Phillips, was actually supporting a parent who was trying to keep her child with quite significant impairments in a mainstream school, and I couldn't believe how much money the Education Department was prepared to throw at barristers and lawyers to block their requests when a lot less would have actually resourced the needs. And so I began to think this, there is a real question about the real world. What is Kathy's question about, the real world can't offer this, can it, can't it? That's part of the question we're trying to answer today. Thanks, Kathy. Next to Julie Phillips. Julie's had a long background through her role with the Disability Discrimination Legal Service in Victoria in supporting students and their families, in advocating for their rights to have access to the same kind of education available to all other students in Victoria, and we're going to get her to give us a brief burst on that.
You better ding me if I go on for too long. Okay, thanks.
I'm sure I have to.
How rude. Thanks, everybody. Look, there's so much to say on this topic, and I'm just going to pick a couple of main points, I guess, on it. But it seems to me from listening to a couple of people so far that one of the reasons people pick special schools is because the mainstream settings are so hopeless. It's talking about the ideal world, if they had trained teachers, if they did this, if they did that, it'd be so much better. And they don't, and that's unfortunate because it's not real choice then, is it? But look, I wanted to talk about two things, and one was restraint and seclusion, and the other one was evidence-based practices. And I didn't prepare fully because I never do for these things, but I was thinking what I would say today, and I was thinking of some of the experiences that I've had and some of the stories I've heard and what's gone on. But luckily, I have actually got a prop, which is the held back report that David referred to today, which has just come out this morning, which is about the experience of children with disabilities in the school system. And I should say I have never had a complaint about Concord. I just wanted to say that. But look, I wanted to talk about some issues which are quite confronting, which appear in this report. Now, restraint and seclusion. This is one of the reasons that I think special schools need to go or be seriously, something has to happen. There are, I'm not going to talk about my own stories, I'll just repeat what's in here because they're good enough. Who thinks that taping children to a chair as punishment is a good idea? Anybody? Locking them in a cupboard? Yeah, thank you, no. Getting them down from a tree by tying a rope around their leg and pulling them. It goes on and on and on. There are unacceptable practices that go on in special schools that for some reason people think are okay, and they are not okay. I hate the terms restraint and seclusion because they sound so, I don't know, sometimes they sound a bit posh, and really abuse and illegal imprisonment, if I may borrow a term from the Department of Education lawyers. If you look at the position paper on for Principals Association special schools, they admit that they have been told by the Department of Education lawyers that to shut kids in a room is illegal imprisonment, and it is. Does it go on? Unfortunately, all the time. Before this morning, I did have my own stories, but again, I go back to this report. Now, if it was kids without disabilities that these things were happening to, do you think that the community would tolerate it for 1 minute? Absolutely. Why is it tolerated for kids with disabilities? I don't understand at all. So that is one of the things, the terrible things that go on. Look, it also does go on in some mainstream schools, but the report reflects that it is mostly special schools that this goes on in. And perhaps not everyone, so I really want to make that clear, but it is rife and it's been going on for years, and the Department of Education has known about it and not done anything to date. Then that lets me segue into best practice. One of the reasons that teachers often say, and principals, that they have to restrain and lock up kids with disabilities is that they're aggressive, they're out of control. I've never heard so many stories about aggressive people with disabilities in my life. Some of them are only 6 years old, but you know, they're pretty scary and they're pretty frightening. Well, there are a number of evidence-based practices which one can use to address challenging behaviours in kids and young people with disabilities, which are sophisticated, positive behaviour support, behavioural psychologists. Unfortunately, these things are not used. They are not used enough if they are used at all. And I guess throwing kids to the ground and having 4 adults sit on them is a quicker and easier response that is a bit easier than on the training budget perhaps. But there are evidence-based approaches, even forget about learning, putting that to one side, in relation to these areas that could be used and aren't. And so that's one of my other arguments against special schools, that if you look at research on teaching pedagogy, on behavioural interventions, on the damage that is done to children, the psychological damage when you use restraint and seclusion, there's this abyss between the practices in these schools and what goes on outside. And that is my worry, that special schools are often a tiny culture where parents are often told they cannot come in, they have to drop the kids at the gate and receive permission to get any further, and their own little world with these terrible abusive practices happening spitting out very damaged children who turn into very damaged adults that turn into damaged adults living in DHS CRUs where they get restrained and secluded a bit more. So I guess that's what I've got to say. I've picked an area which I know is a bit shocking, but I'm tired of it not being spoken about, and I'm tired of it going on year after year after year with no one saying anything about it or doing anything about it. I'll now calm down and sit down. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I've both worked as an advocate and I understand the dark side and the stories that emerge from the things that go wrong in the system, and if we don't listen to them, they expand and they grow. And quite often people think that if 90% are okay, then that's good enough. It's never good enough when one child is being excluded from education opportunities, and I think Julie makes that point really well. I also did a little stint in a special school in my past. It's where I met George, actually. George was really pissed off with me because I was running discos and recreation things, but you had to be at least 13 to go. And he didn't quite make that stage while I was still there, so we still have an unresolved conflict over what happened. But certainly in those settings, you know, those questions were always there. You know, the aspirations of the students to be part of their community and to be included and to not feel neglected and rejected. I do remember driving those old Spastic Society blue buses and seeing kids do all the funny things on the side of the street, pulling up and getting out there and grabbing some of them, bringing them onto the bus to introduce them to us lot, going off to have a good time. So there was always that tension, isn't there, when you're completely cut off from the world but passionately wanting to be part of it. And I suppose the role and the test, I suppose, of the question we're looking at today is whether or not there is a future for special schools or whether it's because we're not doing the other schools well that they continue to exist. Our final speaker, who's not actually on the program here but has been kindly invited on and will bring us the perspective of the special school principal, is Colin Simpson from he's the principal? Assistant principal, sorry, I've just jumped him up a spot, of the Concord Special School. And Julie said she hadn't had any complaints against him, so I'm assuming that he's talking about one of the better ones.
Thanks, David, and yes, Julie, but I can't take much credit for not having any complaints because I've only been there for 18 months. So. But as I say, my name is Colin Simpson. I also want to introduce two of our finest students over here, Scott and Troy. Scott is the school captain and Troy is one of our leaders in the school, and they've come along to support me today, so welcome to you guys. My background is not Australian. I've spent the last 30 years in special education and special schools in New Zealand, and a variety of special schools within that time. I came over, I'm an earthquake victim, refugee if you like, from Christchurch, and I came over about just under 2 years ago to continue my special school teaching at Concord School. For me, the debate's not so much about where we educate our students, it's about how. And if we can provide the how equally in a variety of settings, the assessments, the programs, the interventions, the access, the caring and the happiness, if we can provide that in a mainstream school, then fantastic, that's where we should be. I advocate that the how is more effective and more easily provided and more cost effective, let's be honest, in a special school than it often is in a mainstream school. So what drives my sort of teaching philosophy about special schools are the 3 Ps. So it's about a presence, and for many of our students, just being at school is an achievement in itself. But of course we want more than that, so it's about participation, and then finally it's about progress. Now if all those 3 Ps can be met in a regular school, fantastic. But certainly at a special school, I think where we're able to bring the resources together of specialists, of teachers with expert training, of psychologists, of leaders in special education, if we're able to bring those together on one side, then I honestly believe that those students will get an excellent education. I won't say better, I'll say excellent. The fact is, when I first got into special education 30 years ago, I fell into it. When I came back from overseas, it was the only job they offered me. We started at 9:30, we might do a wee bit of reading, then we went off to the beach, then we might go to the movies, we had an hour and a half for lunch, and then everyone went home, the taxis at 2 o'clock. And you know, that was the reality of special schools, certainly in New Zealand, and my gut feeling is it's probably around a lot of special schools across the world, that it was basically just entertaining and child minding. I can honestly stand here and say now that the level of accountability and the level of professionalism and the level of teaching pedagogy that exists in our schools, our special schools now, is just way, way ahead of anything that was obvious 20, 30 years ago. So I can stand with great pride and say that the programs that the students at Concord get really are the best available. As I said, it's not so much how they're educated, it's not so much where they're educated, but how they're educated. And as Kathy said, it's about the options. And it's options for our students, it's options for the parents to choose on behalf of those students. And if you don't have special schools, then that's just one less option that you have for your child or for yourself. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but my background in New Zealand is actually, Kathy, is it? Julie would love this, because actually for 15 years I was assistant principal of a special residential school. Now, they don't have residential schools in Australia, but if you want to go into the dark past, Julie, then residential special schools across the Western world, I would say, have a dark past. However, the time I was there, along with a couple of colleagues, we were able to significantly change the culture of that school so that the students there were safe, they were well cared for, and above all, they were well educated. So as well as advocating for special schools, I would also suggest that there is a consideration needs to be given for residential schools, and not for locking people away and putting them away and locking them in cupboards and lassoing them off trees and all those sort of dreadful practices, but for some of our students who may be from really remote country districts who don't have access to special schools, for some of our students who might have really complex needs or complex behaviours or have exhausted all other special school options, then a residential school shouldn't be discounted in the option in the possibilities for future education. Yep, they have a grey past, but with good advocacy, with good systems in place, they can be a really positive step for students who don't have any other options. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's about having an option for you or your family or your children. Thanks.